Hi, third graders. I'm going to read the story Tiny Tardigrades to you that is found in your Ready Common Core book on pages 18 through 23. So please grab your book and follow along with me. This story is again called Teeny Tiny Tardigrades. And you'll notice over to the left it says words to know. These are words that I want you to look for as I read to you, and the directions are asking you to look inside the word, to look for word parts to help you figure out what the word means, around the word, so that means the clues in the sentence, and beyond the words, so that means other words and sentences past that word to help you figure out what these words mean. So the first word here is radiation, so watch for that word. Survive, thrive, and function. So when you see these words in the text, make sure you are doing your best to use what we call context clues to figure out what those words mean. That means reading the other words around the text to help you figure out what those words mean. All right, I'm going to read starting at paragraph 1. So please put your finger on the first word of that sentence that says what, and I want you to follow along with me as I read. What would you say if someone asked you to name the Earth's toughest survivor? Camels can go a week without drinking. A cockroach can survive more radiation than a person, but there is a teeny tiny creature that can go without food or water for years. It is so small that it can be seen only under a microscope. Its real name is tardigrade. Most people call it a water bear. Okay, I'm in the next heading called Surviving Everything. Put your finger on the first word of paragraph 2 and follow along. Water bears look like soft, squishy bugs. People call them bears because they walk the way bears do. Most water bears are smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. Don't let their size fool you. They are found in places that would kill most living things. Some water bears survive in the boiling water found in hot springs. Others live miles below the ocean's surface. They survive with tons of water pressing down on them. Not all water bears live in extreme places. They can be found in parks, forests, and gardens. They thrive in damp, woody areas where mosses and other plant life grow. Many feed by sucking juices out of plants. Others eat creatures that are smaller than they are. Okay, before we go to the next page, let's take a minute and look at this picture of the teeny tiny tardigrade. This is actually a picture that's blown up very, very large because remember, a tiny tardigrade cannot be seen very well with our eye. You have to put it under a microscope to be able to see it. So this is what it would look like if you looked underneath the microscope. So I want you to take a second, pause the video, and go back and retell what I just read to yourself. Look at each paragraph and see what the important parts in each paragraph were so that you can remind yourself what this page was about. When you're finished, go ahead and unpause the video and we'll go to the next page. Okay, next page, put your finger on the heading that says drying up. That's the title of this part of the story. And follow along with me. Water bears must have water to stay active. It helps them eat, move, and breathe. So what happens when the water around one of these tiny creatures dries up? First, it pulls in its 8 legs. Then it curls its body into a barrel shape called a tun. it loses 99% of its water. Then every single life function of the water bear stops. Okay, paragraph 6. When conditions get better, the water bear stretches its little legs and starts moving and eating again. Water bears can survive the extreme cold and radiation of outer space. Scientists sent some water bears into space as part of an unmanned mission. They came back fine. An unmanned mission means that they went up in space without people, and they put them in a spacecraft to see if they can survive. That's why they don't want people to go, because what if they didn't survive? Paragraph 8. Not so long ago, most scientists believed life did not exist beyond Earth. Now, many think it is possible. If water bears can survive a visit to outer space, who knows what other creatures might live there? And then this is a photograph of a space, some sort of spaceship that they've sent to outer space. And this blue rectangle is called a caption. It tells us more about this photo, and it says thousands of water bears spent more than a week in space before they were returned to Earth. All right, let's take a minute and retell to ourselves what we just read so we can remind ourselves about the important information, the more important pieces of information on this page. So pause the video, retell to yourself, and then go ahead and start it again. All right, it's time to see how well you read and what you remember about what you read. Remember, if you need to read the story again, which I highly recommend you do, we need to close read it more than one time. Go back and look at the text again after we preview these questions and look for the answers. It's always important to go back and reread the text more than one time. So let's start with the directions. Up here it says think. Use what you learned from reading the selection, that means the article, to respond to these questions. So we're going to use the text to help us answer the questions. Number 1 says, which 2 questions can be answered by reading paragraph 2? Okay, there's a couple things here. Number 1, I want you to notice that the word to is written in bold print. That means it's darker than the other words. That means you need to pick 2 answers. So it's telling you to go back into paragraph 2, look at what information is in paragraph 2, look at the questions that they give you there and which 2 of those questions have answers in paragraph 2. So that means you really need to look at paragraph 2 carefully and see which 2 of these questions can be answered with the information in paragraph 2. Okay, question 2, why are tardigrades called water bears? Go back into the text and look for the answers just to make sure. So try to remember where you saw that information. Question 3 says read this sentence from paragraph 4. So this sentence right here, not all water bears live in extreme places. That comes from paragraph 4. So it's asking you underneath, it says, based on how it is used in the passage, what does the word extreme mean? Use key details from the text in your response. So for this, you need to use the context clues to figure out what the word extreme means. Context clues are all of the words in the text before that word, in that same sentence as that word, and after that word that helped you figure out what that word means. So I would go back to paragraph 4, read what it talks about, and explain what the word extreme means and how do you know that using the clues from the text. All right, let's move on to the next questions. Question 4 says, based on details in the passage, what 3 types of places is this sentence talking about? So they are talking about this sentence. They are found in places that would kill most living things. Again, notice it says 3 things. What 3 places are tardigrades found, but most living things would not be able to survive there? So which 3 would be found in the text that says tardigrades can live here? These are extreme places, but what would most living things not be able to survive in that place? Okay, question 5. This question has 2 parts. First, answer part A and then answer part B. So part A and part B go together. Part A is asking you to look at this sentence here from paragraph 5. It says, water bears must have water to stay active. It helps them eat, move, and breathe. Which question can be answered after reading these sentences? So you're going to read the questions that they have there, A, B, C, and D, and which one of those is answered by reading the sentence in the bold print. And remember, that's in paragraph 5. So if you need to go back to paragraph 5 to remind you what that paragraph is about, go back to paragraph 5. Now, part B is the evidence from the text that helped you figure out the answer to part A. So this is your evidence. Here at part B, which other sentence from the text also helps answer the question that you chose in part A? So this is another piece of evidence from the text. All right, let's move one more page. This page is your writing response. So the writing prompt says, why are tardigrades important to scientists who are studying outer space? That we talked about on one of the pages. So if you can remember where we talked about outer space and why the scientists sent tardigrades to outer space, go back to that part and remind yourself what that was about, because you're going to need to use details from that part of the story in order to answer your question. So I want you to do the first thing. Answer the question in a complete sentence using words from the question in your statement answer. So after you've answered it, then the details are your specific evidence from the text. What helped you figure that out? Be sure to use the details from the text. The details are the sentences from the text that helped you figure out that answer. So when you're doing the first part, answering in a complete sentence, that's kind of in your own words from what you learned from the text. But the second part is the exact sentence from the text. This is where you're doing what we call citing evidence from the text. That means looking back in the text and seeing exactly what the text said that helped you figure out that answer. And then this last part, this learning target is for me to see what you're thinking about what we've worked on this week with asking and answering questions. The learning target is for your thinking. I want to see what you think, why you think it's important to ask and answer questions. So it says, explain how asking and answering questions can help you better understand anything that you read. I want to know why you think we're learning this. So those are your thoughts. That's something that comes from here. It's not going to be in the text. Okay, good luck, boys and girls. I'm going to give you Thursday and Friday to work on this. By the way, please answer these questions in Schoology. You don't need to write them in your book. Go into the assignment tab in Schoology, and I want you to answer the questions there. All right, good luck, and I can't wait to see how you do. Remember, go back into the text if you're not sure. All right, good luck, boys and girls.